Be working with Castor with the plastic again and a little bit with the Surcingle. So I'm going to show him the plastic. He's already seen it a couple times. You can tell he wasn't super nervous about it. He didn't try to leave. He's just like, okay, this means food because he's been conditioned to it as that. So when he sees that, he thinks it's like a bucket, like there's going to be food on it. So that's what I want. That's the goal. So once I've already done all that stuff, I'm going to start touching him with it. So he's already touched it. He's already explored it. He's already walked over it. Now I can go ahead and just have him stand there while I touch him with it. And he's doing fantastic. He's just munching on his treats here. So every time that I go ahead and touch him with it, I'm going to click and feed him. If your horse is not this comfortable with it, just break it down a little bit more. And as you're bringing the plastic up toward him, that's when you're going to click and feed. And you're going to take it away. So you're going to have some approach and retreat here because the horse, if the horse is worried about it, and then you don't even need to worry about the touching. Just go ahead and worry about the approach and then build up to the touching. So but Castor is cool with the approach. He's cool with it touching him. So I can just kind of work it all the way down his body, and he's pretty chill about that. He's not shut down, so he's got his ears moving and he's chewing and he's thinking and paying attention, but he's also not showing me any signs of stress. He's not moving, he's not leaning, he's not raising his head or anything. When I take it away, he's coming toward me, so he's more interested in it than anything. So those are all fantastic signs. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and you can have a little bit better view there. So that last time when I kind of tossed it over his withers, I clicked and then I'll take it off and feed him. So this is a pretty good, just kind of how it should be. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen right away. Castor's a pretty cool horse. Like he's not really worried about a lot of things, and he habituates to stuff really easily. So Atlas is kind of the complete opposite. So then you can kind of see both sides, which is kind of nice. But he did that amazingly. So we're just going to work with the Surcingle. So I like to make sure he's cool with the tarp and the plastic bag and a flag and all that stuff before he sees the surcingle. And then I do the surcingle, I do the pads, and then I bring out the saddle. So same kind of process with the surcingle that I did with the plastic. I'm just kind of touching him on the shoulder and tossing it over his withers. So you'll see with Atlas, completely different method here. So Castor's not worried about this Surcingle, so I can kind of start a little bit further ahead. Atlas is, so I have to start just like it approaching his shoulder. So completely different. So it's going to be different for every horse. If I did that with Castor, it'd probably be just too much repetition. Like he's okay with it, so I don't want to, keep doing it over and over and over, and then he either gets too excited or he's just bored. So I want to break it in the right size pieces for each horse. And for Castor, it's going to be bigger pieces, and for Atlas, it's smaller pieces. So that's just something to think about when you're doing some training stuff. So I started with just having that surcingle turn the other way to where just the surcingle part would kind of go over his back. He was cool with that. I mean, I love his body position here. He's nice and relaxed, his head down, he's chewing, he's just hanging out. And then I started working with having that girth go over his back because it makes some sound and it's a little scary. And then I kind of go ahead and just pull the girth underneath. So I use my rope there to kind of help me out and go ahead and reach that. You can also use a stick. And you've already seen that. Castor's already done that before. So he's already used to this idea. And we did that with protected contact. So I do that all first before I go in next to the horse. And you can also do it with the round pen. That's what I do with Atlas. I just didn't have one at this point in time. So I'm just kind of using the mounting block as a little bit of protected contact just in case. And kind of block him from his hind feet a little bit, but the goal really here, so there, that was really nice. I just brought it up and kind of squeeze it a little bit together like I'm tightening it, and then I'm squeezing, I'm going to click let go and then feed. So the goal here is just to kind of get him used to it and to not get him over threshold. So obviously I want to be worried about safety and I don't want to get kicked or, I don't want him jumping around or anything bad. But I need to be paying attention to what Castor's telling me beforehand. Because most of the time they're going to tell you, like, I'm not comfortable with this before they explode. So right now he's telling me he's totally fine with this because he's pretty relaxed. He's chewing. His eyes are like blinking. His ears are moving. He's got his head and neck really low, and he's just really chill. If he started to get really tense, I need to go back and redo that step. So again, I did the same thing I did on that other side. I had the surcing the other way, just had to toss that over because it's not really loud. It just has those billets. And then he was cool with that. And I went ahead and just tossed the girth part over. And then it's going to swing around and like make a lot more noise. And his body position didn't change. So he's pretty relaxed with this. It's not a huge deal. So when I do reach under to get the girth, I'm going to turn my face toward his head and then kind of reach my hand underneath just in case. I don't want to stick my head underneath his belly in case his hind foot would like to come up. But I'm going to do the same process. So again, here, I reach for the girth. I'm going to hold the billets and just kind of squeeze a little bit and hold it, and then I'm going to click and then let go and give him a treat. And he's doing fantastic with this. He's really a star when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I'm just going to kind of move it around, making sure he's cool with it. And again, his body position doesn't change. He's just chewing on his treat and hanging out. So I really like that. And I want him to kind of move with it and make sure he's cool with that. So I go ahead and click him while he kind of moved forward a little bit there. Again, break it down, little tiny steps. He doesn't have to go on a whole lunging circle right away. It's just that little part. And then I like taking it on, taking it off, and really repeating a lot of that because for some horses that girth sound can be really scary. So that's important. And then one thing that I did mess up on there is when I asked him to go, I had that girth length on the other side. And he walked forward and he was fine, but some horses might be afraid of that, and then when they see that on that opposite side, they might spook into you. So that's what I did there. Was I noticed it after like the second time and was like, okay, should have probably put the girth on that inside, so if he were to spook from it, he would spook away from me. But that's something to be aware of. I was aware of it, and then I guess I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention. So but I really like this here. When I went to go over the fence, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't worried. He's like, oh, I'm supposed to be lining up to the fence. So I really like that for him. Even though I was just refilling my treat bag, I wanted to keep that clip in because I thought that was really good to show where he is mentally. Like, he's not worried about me getting up on the fence or seeing me above him. So we're really making a lot of good progress there. So really liked that. Just kind of adjusting my billets here. He's a little on the chunky side compared to other horses I use the Surcingle on. So again, same thing. I'm going to see if he can just kind of walk a step while I hold on to that. And it can be a little scary because, of course, he's moving forward with that Surcingle on. It's moving. It feels weird. He has to start walking now. But then I'm also holding onto that girth. So the goal here is like he gets scared, I can kind of pull it off. And he's already used to that. But he might be afraid of just seeing that kind of connect from his back to my hand. So that's another thing. With Castor, he also wore the Surcingle in protective contact when he was in the round pen and I was on the outside. I just laid it over his back and he followed me and he was cool with it. So that is just a prerequisite first. So everything I'm doing here is in order. So not to skip steps and scare anybody and make a big deal out of it. Everything's building on each other. So he walked forward there. I clicked and fed. He backed up a couple steps afterward. It's not a big deal. Doesn't matter. I don't try to chain it in there and like, I don't want the horse to think that that's part of the behavior, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. So again here, the thing I would change about this is I would have him use a target and follow the target instead of like lunging him here, because that's just kind of putting like more pressure on him and I don't want that. He's just confused. He thinks he's supposed to stay next to the mounting block and I'm like, no, let's lunge, and he just doesn't understand what I want. And you can see the difference on clarity for him when I ask him to lunge versus when I ask him to do other things. So what I mean is when I've trained him to do like stand still next to the mounting block or stand still to put the Surcingle on, all those things he's really good with. But the things I've trained him like with the negative reinforcement, like the lunging, he gets really confused. So you can really see the difference there. This looks really nice though. He figured it out here. He was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So if I could change it now and do it differently with the training horse I'd have now, I would just have that horse follow a target, go around the round pen, and I would do the same thing, but without lunging with pressure and pushing him forward with the end of the lead rope. So then from here, I'm just going to do like one step, click and feed. He walks forward 2 steps with a Surcingle, click and feed, and we just build that up on both sides. And then I can pull the Surcingle off, and then I can pull it onto the ground, and it falls down in the dirt. And I want him used to that. Like if the saddle slips off the side, he's like, okay, that's what's supposed to happen. So then when the saddle does, if it does ever slip, he's like, that's supposed to happen. So then he's not afraid and you're not worried about stuff. It just makes everything so much easier. So I do have an old saddle that I need to whip out and start working with that, but this is the prerequisites, the first beginning steps of that.